You may be one type of person. You may be the type of person who you are currently working in a job and you have that side hustle that you really enjoy, but it just kind of supplements whatever you do for a living right now, and you're happy where you are. Or you might be the person who is currently working a job and you have that side hustle, but you have a bigger dream. And you are pushing towards that bigger dream, and you just want that bigger dream to come true, and you are just paralyzed. Maybe it's by fear or by second guessing your talents or yourself, and you're just not quite there. You're not quite at the point where you feel like you can take that leap to pursue that dream full time. At what point do you think you'll be ready? At what point do you feel like, yes, this is the time, this is the day that I am going to take my dream full time. I'm going to turn that side hustle into my main hustle. Welcome to Business with Purpose. I'm your host, Molly Stillman of StillBeingMolly.com, and this show is all about bringing you the stories behind the brands, companies, and small businesses that are changing the world. Each week, I interview an entrepreneur, a CEO, nonprofit director, or just an amazing person who's trying to make a positive impact not only through their personal life, but also with their professional career. My goal is to show you that no matter what you do for a living, you can make an impact right where you are. My guest this week is Kelly Parker Smith. She is the founder of Hello World Paper Company. She's a rubber stamp designer and manufacturer, and she lives just outside St. Louis in Belleville, Illinois, with her husband, her 3 boys, and their rescue kitten, Katniss. She has grown her shop, Hello World Paper Company, with the idea that great products become even better when paired with top-notch customer service, a little surprise and delight, and of course, perfect packaging. But here's why I loved Kelly's story so much. She had a dream, and she set out with a goal to build a school with pencils of promise, a school through her business. Today, we're going to dive into her business and her purpose behind her business, which is building the school and providing education for other kids. I loved this conversation with Kelly. She is so much fun, and I know you will too. So without further ado, on to my conversation with Kelly. Hey, Kelly, welcome to the show.
Hi, Molly.
I am so pumped to have you on today. And I was actually introduced to you through, it was one of those like 6 degrees of separation, introduced to you through a friend who knows Jess Freeman, who was also on the show. And it's like, but I love that because it just shows what a small world we live in.
It really does. Truly.
Yes,
I know.
Yes. So I've been following your work ever since she introduced you to me, and I just love what you do, and I cannot wait to share your story with the listeners. So we're just going to dive right in. So Kelly, I'm going to have you do what all my guests do, and that's give us the Kelly 101. So tell us your story and how you got to where you are today.
Okay, great. So my story started back in 2009. I was a single mom with a son who was 7, and I met someone over the internet, which, back then wasn't as cool. There was no swiping or whatever there is now. It was like, Yahoo personals or something, but I wasn't very lucky in that department until, we connected. And so that was really neat. And we got married in 2009, and I decided to, the way most stationary people start out, I decided to design my own wedding invitations. And so I did that, but we did something different. This was way before giving back was cool. Mm-hmm. And so for our wedding, we did charity favor cards because I have Crohn's disease. Oh. And so we gave to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. And so we all, everyone at our wedding wore purple lapel pins. Again, before pins were cool and before the enamel pin craze. And so we had these little cards at every table, and, it said instead of favors, we're giving back. And, everyone wore their pins. It was really cool because my husband also has a stepsister with Crohn's disease. And then I have 2 cousins with ulcerative colitis. So it kind of was a big family give back kind of situation.
Yeah.
And so then I started an Etsy shop. I was super into stamps, and I was like a stamping demonstrator. I would, show people how to stamp and rubber stamps, And so I started with handmade cards in an Etsy shop that my mother-in-law bought them all. And then once we had our wedding, I was like, oh, these favor cards are pretty cool. I wonder if other people who are getting married would be interested in giving back on their wedding day. And so I listed those in the shop and they went like crazy. Like people just loved them. And that's when the whole giving back at your wedding movement kind of started. And so I rode that wave for a while. Like, I mean, I was buying enamel pins in every color, and every charity was getting donated to, because I gave back to the couple that was getting married. So whatever charity they donated to, I gave back to it as well.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
So yeah, it was super great. I loved it. There were just I felt like I was reaching so many people in need, and it just gave me all the warm and fuzzy feelings.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
So in 2014, I actually opened a rubber stamp shop. I went back to kind of where I started, and it just totally took off. It was very surprising. And at the time, I was a teacher. I taught third grade at an inner city school here in St. Louis. And I was like, oh my God, I can't keep up. So for 5 years, I would be, working at night and on the weekends and getting up before school and taking my lunch break to go assemble whatever order I had. And it was just too much, and I had to choose one. And so I decided to give my little shop all my attention, and I quit teaching.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really hard. And like, it wasn't like my husband was like, oh, I have all this money, you should just quit,
Yeah.
He made as much as I did, and I was a teacher in an inner city school. I didn't make a lot of money. And we were just like, you know what? We got to take this leap of faith, and someone's calling you to do this,
Yeah.
So I just did it. We didn't have any savings. We had 3 kids. Well, I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was pretty crazy. But I did it, and it took off, and, I was doing it part-time, and I was now able to devote full-time to it. And now I have a full-time employee. And so things just like went crazy. And at first I was giving to a different charity every month. So I was giving to, Doctors Without Borders, and I was giving to local charities and food pantries and all the stuff. And I was switching it up every month. But then 2 years ago, I decided that I wanted to just concentrate in one area. And so I went back to my roots again, and I decided to concentrate on education. And so we have pledged to build a school with Pencils of Promise. And we are not a large company. We are very small. So this is like, we're just chugging along.
Yeah.
We've been, donating like every month. We donate so much, and we just keep chugging along. So with every purchase that people make, they get to give back. And now we've expanded. We not only do rubber stamps, but we do cutting boards and other laser engraved gifts like bookmarks and lapel pins, but they're wood instead of enamel. And we do all kinds of stuff. But everything that we do gives back to our school build.
That is amazing. I want to go back before I talk a little bit about the Pencils of Promise thing, because I think that is such a cool thing. And I love that you were like, I mean, we were giving back before like giving back was cool.
It was. I mean, we were.
Yeah, no, I think
it's like it all took off in 2011, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, before you got me, so how long were you a teacher for?
10 years.
10 years. Yeah. So that's a big leap from going to teaching full-time in an inner city school, teaching elementary school, which I also have a background in teaching. I taught at high school for a couple of years when I first graduated college.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I looked like a high schooler. Like I legitimately got asked for a hall pass, and I was like,
right.
I work here. I teach kids. But yeah, I mean, when I think back, I mean, I was 21 when I started teaching, and I'm like,
right.
I mean, I'm teaching 18 and 19-year-olds.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, it's okay. But when I moved to North Carolina, I moved at like the peak of the recession, and there was no teaching jobs. And so I wasn't able to go back to teaching like I had wanted to. And I ended up kind of getting thrust into working for myself. And I know that was such a scary leap that I was kind of forced into in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
I know you kind of mentioned that you sort of got to that point where it was like, this is an either or. I can't continue to do both of these things. What did that process look like for you to make that decision to go full time and to take that leap? Because I know I have so many listeners of this show who have that dream. There are so many people who have that dream of being an entrepreneur, of owning their own business, or maybe they're, they have that creative side hustle or whatever they want to call it. And they are sitting there in their teaching job or their corporate job or their retail job, and they're miserable. And they want to pursue that dream. What was it that finally gave you kind of the kick in the pants to be like, all right, we're doing this. I'm going to give it a shot. Like, did you have a plan B? What did all that look like?
Yeah, I think the kick in the pants for me, well, first of all, I was miserable. So I would cry almost every night on my way home from work.
Teaching is hard. It is hard.
It was really hard. And I was more like, I was miserable because, all the bureaucracy with teaching, of course, there was that. But then I was helping the kids and I was giving them a safe space to come to every day. And, I connected so much with them. It was never the kids, it was never the kids that made me miserable. They were the best part of the job. But I felt stuck. I felt like my hands were tied. I couldn't adopt all these kids. I couldn't go into their home and give them everything they needed.
Yeah.
My kids were coming in and they were sick to their stomachs some mornings because there was a shooting last night. Right. They had to hide under their bed. Their mom's addicted to heroin. There was just so many things. And the rules and the hoops you have to go through to get these kids help. It made me sick every day.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
On top of the fact that I have Crohn's disease, and so stress and all of that just triggers my condition.
Yeah.
And so I pushed really hard to find a way that I could work from home. And I missed spending time with my kids. I thought being a teacher, I'd be able to spend more time with my kids. And I found out I was spending no time with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because, parent nights and all the stuff you have to do, parent teacher conferences, they're all at night.
Yeah.
All these things are at night. And so I was missing time with my kids. And then when I was home, I was working on my shop.
Yeah.
So, my kids were helping me, my 9-year-old helped me assemble things or package up orders. But, I had to miss out on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think when my third son was born, because he was born in 2011, that was oh my God, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
I've got to either make this work and push it and make it work. And so I sacrificed a lot to make it really work that last year in 2013, 2014. And it got to the point where I wasn't sleeping. I was up all night doing things, proofing, answering messages, emails, all that good stuff. And I had to give the school an answer. I had to tell them before summer, I couldn't wait. And so I had a timeline because once my next contract started, then I was contractor for another year. So I think that makes it a little different than most people kind of feel like they have all the time in the world to quit.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if I don't quit now, this April, I have to wait till next April.
Yeah.
To put my notice. And so, my husband and I were just kind of like, you've got to try it. And you know what? Honestly, my plan B was working at Target.
Yeah.
I was like, I'd rather have a red shirt and go stock shelves. Yeah. That's where I was at.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, I was just done.
Yeah.
I did cry the entire last day of teaching though. I didn't think I was like, what am I doing? This is the worst decision ever.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to miss everyone and the kids. But honestly, it's the best decision I ever made. I can't even believe I stayed there 10 years.
Yeah.
I can't even believe I did that for so long.
Yeah. What would be your nugget of wisdom or words of encouragement or piece of advice you would give to somebody who's kind of in that space and they're just not sure?
And I know when I say this, people will be like, oh, easy for you to say because they think that I'm sitting over here rolling dough. Okay. I'm not. I just want to say that right now. But think about your well-being, your sanity, your happiness. And I'm not saying go quit your job, don't have a savings, don't have a plan. I'm not telling you to do that, even though that is what I did, but I'm not telling you to do that. But I would rather make less money and be home and doing what I love and being able to pick my kids up from school and be able to, cook dinners for them. And I would rather make less money and be able to do all that than make more money and be completely miserable.
Yep. Yep.
So, I mean, that's just me. But it's been worth it to me. And even when my husband, he is now in corporate America, he now has a different job than when I quit. And, he is making more money now, but he still has to make decisions like, do I want to stay in this job? Do I want to move? And I always tell him, he's like, well, that's a pay cut. It doesn't matter. Are you going to be happier? You have to like balance that out. Like, we'll figure it out. We can have peanut butter and jelly one night. Every Tuesday, we can have, instead of tacos, we're having peanut butter and jelly. You have to think of what you are willing to sacrifice for happiness and peace of mind.
For sure. And I think that we have kind of evolved or moved into a season of as a society where people are realizing that, because I feel like the 90s and the early 2000s were like the decade and a half of just the hustle, and everybody was like pursuing the hustle, and all the books were coming out about hustle, and work as much as you can and make as much money as you can. And here we are, another 15 years later, and people are seeing the negative effects of that. And, you're seeing marriages that are struggling. You're seeing kids who feel like they never got time with their parents. And you're seeing like just, the rise of stress and, all the health effects that has, and relationships suffering. And so you're seeing now like all the books are coming out about slowing down and minimalism and like, because everybody now sees the flip side of it. And so I'm in the exact same boat. And actually there was a question so my husband, he's a financial advisor, and he has a radio show. And they always have like kind of this get to know you portion on the radio show. And sometimes I'll be in the car and I'll know that his show's on. So I'll just like turn the radio over to his show. And I happened to this one day, because it's not like I get to hear his show all the time.
Sure.
I was listening this one day, and I happened to tune in at the part where it was the get to know you question. And they had asked him, would you rather, make twice as much money than you are making right now next year, but, doing the exact same thing you're doing right now, or make the same amount of money you're making right now, but work half as much?
Oh, half as much.
Oh, and he was like, oh, with no question, like work half as much. Like, and I was like, I'm so glad you said that, because like that's exactly what my answer would have been too. Like, I think, you get to a point where you reach sort of contentment, and it's like, yeah, we're not rolling in dough. We're not, but like,
we're not. No caviar and champagne over here.
Right. Yeah. But we can pay our bills. We're debt free other than our mortgage. And, we can live, we can make sacrifices. And I'm like, and if you were home, more, and worked half as much, like think of all that we could do together as a family and the memories we could make. And so anyway, I love that you said that, because I think that is something that a lot of people nowadays are feeling more freedom to be able to say, you know what, I might make less money, but think about like the life that I will be living. Because it was like the 90s and the early 2000s, like I was saying, it was just like everybody was just worried about work and not about their life, and they were just missing out on life.
100%. And I think that as business owners, we have to think about that too when we're getting ready to hire people or thinking about hiring people. Yeah. So, in 2016, I faced the same thing again. I was working. I just had this job. It was just my shop, but it was getting so busy that I was working all night. I was working on the weekends, and I was like, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
And that's when I reached out to my best friend, and I was like, she was a teacher. And I was like, how would you feel about not teaching anymore? And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, why don't you come work for me? And so she was like, oh my God, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, she worked at a Catholic school, and she's like, well, next year I only have 4 kids in my class. I'm like, oh no, you go, you take their money. You take their money. Next year, you're going to come work for me. Yeah. So that next year I hustled really hard to be able to get to the point where, I could pay her a full-time salary. Yeah. Yeah. And so everyone's like, well, you gave up a full-time salary. Like that was off because that comes off my salary now. Right.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I sure did. But guess what? Now I like this summer, I'm only working 6 to noon.
Yeah.
That's
and
amazing. Because she's here, and she's only working 6 to noon too. But now both of our quality of lives are better.
Yep.
She gets more time with her kids. She can go, her kids has a volleyball tournament. And she's like, and it's during the day, a work day. And she's like, I'm going to go to my kids' volleyball tournament tomorrow. Okay, sounds good. You have fun.
Yep.
you know, and
Yep.
I got it. I'll take care of it. And then if I have stuff with my kids, she's like, oh, I got it. You go. You
Yep.
know, it's just great.
Oh,
And so don't be afraid to hire people either. You know, don't be afraid to let go of that money so that you can have a better life.
yep. That's one of the things that was a big kind of turning point for me within the last year, because I've been fully self-employed. I mean, I've been blogging since 2007, but I've been, doing this full time since like 2013, 2014. And 2017 was the first year I hired anybody. And that was a big scary thing for me, to like take money that I was making and pay somebody else. But now I'm like, okay, who else can I hire? Because it's just like to hire people who do things well that you do not do well is so
or quickly. You know,
Yes.
there's some things I could do really good, but I'm really slow at it.
right. It's so freeing. So like, I am not a numbers person. So guess what? I pay a bookkeeper who does all of my, and so like
100%.
she'll text me when she'll be like, why did, what is this expense? And I'm like, oh, it's this, and like she takes care of my taxes for me. And I'm like, because that is not my strength. Like,
Right.
and so I am not the best with email. And so I have, somebody that I can forward emails to help me, and those are things that like, that's invaluable for me, because that frees up time that I can then spend doing what I actually do well.
100%.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for having that conversation with me, because I just feel like it's such an important thing that so many entrepreneurs don't talk about. And I think also like those people that are kind of sitting in that weight, and they're sitting in the moment of like, do I leave my corporate job to pursue this other thing or this creative dream or whatever? And I also, I like to say this as well, for the people who are in a corporate job and they love it. You do
Good
that.
for you.
Do that, because like
100%.
Yeah.
My husband could never do what I do. He tells me that all the time. He's like, I could never do your job, because I also am artist and illustrator. I design fabric. I have a podcast. Like, he's like, I don't know. First of all, I don't know how you do all that stuff. He goes, and I don't have a creative bone in my body. And I'm like, well, I don't have any of that financial rebate stuff you do over there. I don't know what that is. They have all these acronyms and all these meetings. I'm like, he's in meetings all day long. He's really good at his job.
Yep.
Like, really good at it.
Yep.
Go.
Yep. You need, that's the other thing too, is like, think about like, as an entrepreneur, and like we were just talking about, you need to hire somebody who's good at, like, sometimes your gifting is to be an employee and help support somebody else. And like, so I think we sometimes glorify entrepreneurship, and it's like, if you're not a business owner, like, no,
right.
There are people who are called to entrepreneurship and to owning their own business, and there are people who are not. And that is okay. Both of those things
is totally
are
okay.
Cool, totally fine. So anyway, I felt like I had to say that, because sometimes I'm like, I want people to know, like, you have permission to do whatever you like.
Whatever you want. That's the beauty of this world. It's whatever you want to do, truly. Yeah. And like, people kind of look at me funny, because I have two sons who are getting ready to start college. So one's a junior, one's a senior. And they're like, well, what college are they going to? What college are they going to? And I'm like, well, Ethan might go here, or Anthony, not really sure if college is going to be for him. And they kind of look at me like, and I'm like, it's not for everybody.
It is not.
It's not. And so he's got maybe a different plan, a different path. That's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody has their place, Everybody has their thing that they like. And, I'd rather have him pursue something he loves than go down this path he doesn't want to be on.
I know you're loving this chat with Kelly, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank our amazing sponsor of the show, who's able to help make it possible, and that is CauseBox. CauseBox is my favorite ethical subscription box. I have been a subscriber for over 2.5 years. Now, each season, a new box is released filled with everything from accessories and home goods and jewelry to the best in skincare and wellness products that are not only amazing, but they are doing the most good. And listen, each box delivers incredible value with a guarantee of over $150 worth of products for only $54.95. But if you use the coupon code MOLLY, that's MOLLY, you get it for $39.95. Now, the products are not just beautiful, they're also useful. Now, the fall box is releasing really soon. The summer box sold out in record time. So if you want to get your hands on the fall box, you're going to need to go now to stillbeingmolly.com/causebox and use that coupon code MOLLY for $15 off. stillbeingmolly.com/causebox and use the coupon code Molly for $15 off. Now back to my chat with Kelly. My husband and I were actually talking about this earlier too, about like how there's just always been sort of that understood push of like, you have to go to college and you have to do this. And like, I mean, both my husband and I went to college. We loved it. It was great for us. But neither one of us are really using our degree. I mean, I was an English major, so, how do you know.
I have 3 degrees, 2 bachelor's and a master's. Here I am.
Yep. Yeah. And so it's like
making stamps.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah. And so, and then I think too, like there's this sort of dying, area of like trade skills,
Absolutely.
Car mechanics and construction workers and contractors and designers and all those kinds of things. Like you don't need a traditional 4-year college degree for those things, yet you can make way more money starting out as a general contractor than you can, as like a teacher where you have a 4-year degree.
Right.
So, yeah.
Anyway. My son wants to be an electrician.
Yeah.
We're like totally behind him.
Yeah.
He's really good at it. He's like into robotics and like all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Electricians can make bank too. So like,
yeah, they can. They can.
It is a lucrative industry. So anyway, okay. So I want to transition a little bit to this dream that you have of building a school with pencils of promise. For the listeners, if you go back to, it would have been an episode in like May of 2017. So you're going to have to go back a little over a year. But my episode with Natalie Frank from the Rising Tide Society, we talked a little bit about Pencils of Promise because the Rising Tide Society has done some work with them. And this is an amazing, amazing organization. But if you have not heard that episode, Kelly, will you just kind of share a little bit about what Pencils of Promise is and then how you have partnered with them in this pledge to build a school?
Yeah, sure. So Pencils of Promise is essentially an organization who builds schools they build schools in third world countries, specifically Ghana, Guatemala, Laos, and Nicaragua. And so they build entire schools, they staff the schools. And when they say that they promise to give 100% of everything that is donated to these schools, they mean it. And so everything that you give is given to the schools. So you can be like a month. I'm also a monthly member, so I pay monthly. It's called their Passport program. So I pay monthly just to help with their financials and all of that stuff. So just helping maintain the schools, because once they're built, they still have to be maintained. But we also have a pledge. So we're doing a campaign to build an entire school. So you can pledge. It's $35,000. The last I've checked, it's $35,000 to build an entire school. And so you can pledge to raise $35,000. There's no time limit. There's no like you must do it in 3 years or you must do it in 10 years. There's no time limit. So you can say, well, I'm going to pledge $35,000 and then you just start going.
That's awesome.
And it seems like so much. Like when I first pledged, I was like, oh my God, $35,000. Like that's another employee, But I was like, no, I really want to do this. I really felt in my heart that this was right for me, just from where I've come from, my background in teaching, like this is what I connected with. And the beauty of it is like, you can go on their website, you can see the pictures, you can watch videos. The children at these schools, they want to be there so bad. Like education is not really offered in these countries, like I think it's like 40% of the population in some of these countries is illiterate and mostly children. And because they can't afford to go to school.
Yeah.
Or there literally is no school for them to go to.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love this so much is not only are these schools being built, but they're being built for children who really want to be there and they are craving that education. So they are just like, little sponges, as a teacher, we always said the kids were little sponges but sometimes there's a lot of people that don't want to be there, as a teacher, I saw that a lot. They don't want to be at school. Their parents don't want to be at school. Nobody wants to be here. It's a struggle. And that's what I loved about this organization is that they were reaching into places where education was wanted.
Yeah.
And so that's why we decided to do that. And it's been a slow, like I think we're like almost at 10,000, which is super exciting.
That's amazing.
We're super excited about it. And we try, to give as much as we can. We do a monthly set. It's set monthly. So I don't really have to deal with like figure out numbers. So some months it's 10%, some months it's over 10%, some months it's under, but it averages out to about 10% of our net profits per year. And then over the holidays, we always do another campaign to give a little more during the holiday season. So when people are buying more, because that's, fourth quarter is our biggest quarter. So
yeah. I think that's absolutely incredible, and just what a gift that you're giving, and something that you're showing other business owners as well. Like, you can give back in creative ways, and it's not like you have to be physically working in a developing nation or in a community or something like that. But if you have a passion like you do for education, you can incorporate those things into your business. And so here you are as, a shop owner, and you make stamps, and it's something creative, and it's something you love. And then you've also incorporated this passion for education into it. So I think it's so awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. And I really want people to understand that, I think people get intimidated by like giving back in their business because they think they don't have enough extra money, like they're like, well, where is that going to come from? Like, how am I going to do it? Just start small. We started really small.
Yeah.
We started giving, I think it was like $50 a month we started with.
Yep.
And then you just build and you build and you build. And then eventually it just becomes part of your business. It's just an expense, and it just happens, and then you kind of forget that it's there. And then you don't notice that you're giving X amount of money.
Yeah.
And it just becomes part of who you are. And then, people like when they're working in their business, they're like, oh, I need to cut back on something. You're never going to cut back on that.
Oh yeah. For sure.
You're never going to be like, that has to go, because it's just so close to your heart that you don't want it to ever go away.
Yeah.
And so we'll always give to something. Even when the school build's over, I'll find something else, or we'll build another one. I don't know. But we'll always be giving back to something. I don't think I could ever not do it.
That is so awesome. Well, Kelly, before we transition to the get to know you portion, I want you to kind of just share quickly with the listeners how they can learn more about you, what kinds of things they can shop to support you. I mean, obviously we mentioned that you do stamps and gifts and things like that. But yeah, so kind of your elevator pitch, and then we'll do some get to know you questions.
Okay, sure. My name's Kelly Parker Smith. Pretty much if you put that in Google, you'll find me, but I'll give you all the other links as well. My shop and laser engraving studio is helloworldpaperco.com. We do mostly rubber stamps, laser engraved goodies, but we also manufacture for other businesses. And so if you partner with us and we manufacture things for you, whether you're a rubber stamp shop or you want some laser engraved goodies in your shop, that also goes back to our school build.
That's awesome.
So even a portion of our manufacturing prices, which aren't that, we aren't that expensive, that goes back to our school build too. I also I do fabric design with Sweet Bee Fabric Co. And you can find information on that at kellyparkersmith.com. Again, a portion of anything I make off my fabric also goes to the school build. And then finally, I help other shop owners with their businesses at creativebizrebellion.com. It is a podcast that I co-host with Caroline Hull, and we interview shop owners. We chat all things social media, PR, all kinds of stuff. And so you can find our podcast. And again, anything I make from the podcast, also a portion of that goes to the school build. So literally everything I touch goes to the school build. Anything you purchase from me goes there. It's all driven towards that.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. Well, now is the part of the show that is my favorite part, and that's just where we get to know you a little bit better and ask you some fun, get to know you questions. And it's also, as the listeners know, my husband, who is my executive producer, he inserts a fun sound effect or movie quote to transition us. So you never know what it's going to be. It's a surprise every week. So, so Kelly, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
My job is to speak to clients on the phone about quantities and type of copy or paper, whether we can supply it to them, whether they can pay for it. And I'm boring myself just talking about this.
All right, so the first question is, if you could steal credit for any great piece of art, song, a film, book, etc., which one would you claim credit for?
Harry Potter.
Oh, I love
Hands
it.
down.
Yes.
Hands down.
Yes.
I would take all of it.
Which of the 7 books is your favorite?
Ooh, the 5th one.
Ooh.
Order of the Phoenix.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like it. I
Yeah,
like it.
Grimwald Place. I mean, how do you not love that?
I know. That's true. That's true.
Just like appears. I just got back from Harry Potter World, so
that's awesome. I really want to go, but my kids aren't old enough yet. But I can't wait till they're old enough to when I can start reading Harry Potter to them. And oh my gosh, I can't wait. Okay, so number 2, if we were to hook up your recently played list on either like Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, what would we hear?
Well, I'm a nerd, so it had to be NPR.
Oh no, that's cool.
So I love when people talk to me in the car. I don't get a lot of time to listen to things, so it's either podcast or NPR.
Yeah.
But music-wise, it had to be anything 90s alternative or Taylor Swift or, all of that good stuff too. So
yeah. What are maybe like some podcasts you've been listening to lately that you really love?
Oh, well, I love Lore, which is kind of like this, horror story podcast.
So the creator of Lore, he actually spoke at Podcast Movement last year. So it was a conference I went to in August out in Anaheim, and he was awesome. He was just so cool to hear.
His voice is just so like soothing and creepy.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Yeah.
So,
and like in person, he's like not creepy looking at all. So it's just really funny to like when you hear somebody's voice and you don't really know what they look like. And then you're like, wait, really? That's the guy?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. So I'm addicted to that. And then also, oh my God, the one with Phoebe Judge, Criminal. I love Criminal.
I haven't heard that one. I'll have to check it out.
It's really good. Her voice is really good too. I get really into podcasts when I really connect with the voice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a lot of people do too. They just don't realize it.
Yeah, for sure.
But if the person's voice is like nails on a chalkboard for me, I'm done no matter what the content is. I'm over it.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, number 3. What is the one beauty or accessory product you can't live without?
My Lush Skin Shangri-La.
Ooh.
I can't live without it. It's like a moisturizing lotion from Lush.
It's a moisturizing lotion from Lush?
Uh-huh. Ooh. It's the best. It has like mushrooms or something in it. I don't know. It's amazing.
What? That's crazy. I love it. I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah, it's so good.
Awesome. And the last question is something that I've been asking a lot of my guests recently. And today, what are you most grateful for?
I am most grateful for being able to spend time with my family whenever I want.
I love it. I love it. I am also grateful for that. Kelly, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing your story and for all that you're doing to impact Pencils of Promise and to just inspire other business owners. Just thank you so much for your time. This was awesome.
Well, thank you for having me. I had fun.
I was so inspired by Kelly's story of how she is setting out to have this big, big, big audacious goal of building a school. And it even got me thinking about what am I doing to create a larger impact, a lasting impact on the lives of others? And how can I think big and dream big in my own business? I absolutely adored her. And as always, I will have her information in the show notes. Another huge thank you to this week's podcast sponsor, CauseBox. Go to stillbeingmolly.com/CauseBox and use that coupon code Molly for $15 off. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you are a first-time listener of the show, welcome. And if you are a regular listener of the show, thank you so much for your support week in and week out. Now, I have a favor. If you guys have not done this already, would you mind heading on over to iTunes and leaving a review of the show? Now, leaving a review just really helps me to know what you're liking, and it helps me to know how the show is personally impacting you. Now, also make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcasting app, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, whichever, because that makes sure that you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you share the show on social media, which I love, love, love when you do that, be sure to use the hashtag Business with Purpose Podcast or tag me at StillBeingMolly on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. This show is edited by my amazing husband and executive producer, John Stillman, and the music is by Mark Killian of Third Wheel Media. Thank you so much for listening. Now go do something good with purpose on purpose.